you know what? Let's just circle back on Happy Place, folks. Let's see. This is not no, but genuinely, because there has been so many links along the way, and obviously we'll go back through some things. But to actually it coming out on your publishing house,
And I'm so chuffed.
makes it even more divinely led to where we are. The book. I mean, books have sort of have been asked to come onto the table of, would you like to do
I bet.
autobiography, memoir, and I've kind of said this before, that I think there's other people out there who could talk about my life in more detail and exact moments, especially about music. But it felt like the timing came at a point where I was like, I actually feel like I've got a lot more to say than just about music. And I think you can only speak on anything that kind of like is real life lessons if you've experienced them yourself. That's when, and I've realized that mentors and teachers tend to will tell you war stories and have a lot of like, wow, heartache and pain, because you have to feel before you can actually talk on it. I get it now. And I feel that's for the same reasons why having Happy Place, you had to feel your own
you've got
pain
to go
and your
there.
own situation. So actually speak on it. Otherwise, it's sort of passive, sort of like, I haven't really spoken with myself, but I'm here. That's the difference. So it feels like it's landed in a place which I can actually talk on these things like with conviction and passion.
Yeah, and there are plenty of life lessons in there, as well as it being anecdotal. You're actually telling us what you've learned and how you've made changes over the years. And one that really struck a chord with me was your people pleasing. And I completely resonate with that, because I, like you, want the people around me to feel comfortable, happy, whatever the situation is. But it often can tip over, I think, if you're a people pleaser, to be detrimental to you. And you end up having everyone else being, feeling great, feeling welcomed, and you're kind of sweating, stressed, anxious, mindful of everything and everyone. And it's a humbling realisation to go, this doesn't have to be this way. I can also have a nice time, and I don't have to be the person that everybody's leaning on or, whatever. So how have you made that change from being a classic people pleaser to now being slightly more mindful about your own needs and what you want?
I would say like it's a task, but just being aware of where I may let down my guard a little bit too much, and by the virtue of doing that, sometimes because I want people to enjoy time around me, and that's something that will always be. I'm a Taurus. I'm very earthy. I'm all about the senses and pleasures, and I want people to feel and smell and see and hear. It goes to shows. Even when I'm performing at I'm just watching the crowd intently just to see, is that person enjoying themselves? Can they see okay? Are you okay? I'm having a whole full-on conversation that's going on, even though I'm singing like one of my songs. I'm looking like, are you right? Is that guy like? Is he? And I'll be pressing my little microphone talk back and saying, no, can you just check the girl that's in the front there? It seems like the guy's like kind of like he's in a. I'm on a whole.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I'm super aware, but then sometimes I can be so unaware to the effect that it can be having on myself, and it took a while to rein it in to the point where I can give. I love to give. I genuinely, it's not because I need something in return. It's I love it. I love to give. I love seeing someone's face light up. I love being the hostess and the mostess.
I've never left your house without a goodie bag.
The goodie bags, they make me smile, because especially if you put the attention to detail in them.
Oh,
like you
they're
really make it
amazing goodie
unique
bags.
and make you feel like you've been seen. But I think what I really was one of the takeaways was that being able to receive. So there's a thing of like someone's giving me something and they're like, here's a gift, and they're like, wow, I love it. My natural go-to, without even thinking, would be like, not to trump the person, but what can I give you as well? Just so we can share this moment. And actually I recognized I was doing a disservice to the person who was giving me a gift. I wasn't receiving their gift. I wasn't accepting that beautiful moment. And by not doing that, it was almost like throwing it back in their face. So it kind of diminished what they tried to give to me. And I became really conscious of that. I was like, okay, I can give and I can have boundaries that mean that I don't overgive, because my experience of being a people pleaser can also be that you can continuously give so much that then people are like, you know what, well, Craig's got it then.
Yeah.
We know what we get here now. Like, you've set the tone of the doors open, come in and just take what you want. Miami would be a great example. We're friends and we're having a good time, and go and get something from the fridge. The TS5 party happens, thinking there's boundaries of knowing that now we're in party mode. People just rocking up in the fridge and take it. No. and they wouldn't understand why there was a difference. And I realized, okay, my boundaries are really off here in terms of setting the tone of this is that. So it's not so much that I've reined it in terms of giving, because I think I give even more now, but it's accepting and receiving.
Yeah.
And having that balance, because it's so important. That it really is.
Have you, everything you're saying completely rings true, because I think I've definitely, the dial has tipped over at times where there's been no boundaries, and people, then you assume that people will have their own barometer of this is okay, this is not, but often they don't. And then when they do cross the line, I would find myself going into resentment. Like, why do they think this is okay to take this from me? It doesn't have to be a thing, but time, energy, whatever, when I don't want to do that, but I haven't set the boundary. Did you find yourself tipping into resentment if those boundaries weren't in place?
There was definitely moments where, and I touch on this in the book, and I wanted to give sort of anecdotes or stories, or at least simple metaphors that people could relate to, because I think you can get a little heady sometimes and give these sort of very wild kind of like, let's just ground it down to someone walking. There's no fence between your garden and someone else's garden, so they just walk. Someone walks into your garden and they step all over the beautiful flowers that you just laid, and you're just like, whoa, like why did you not see the? I'm like, well, I didn't know there was no boundary to the garden here. So you put a wall up, and the fence is there to demarcate where our boundaries are. But that doesn't mean I can't open the door for you if you knock on the door nicely, and I can invite you into my space, so then you can come and enjoy. And it's recognizing that with weak boundaries, and that tends to be the thing that kind of plays into a myriad of things in our lives, that there are people that unfortunately are less conscious of how they're affecting other people, especially because I'm super empathic, super sensitive, super psychic, which I feel very liberated to say that now. I think I was a bit like in the closet about being psychic, but I'm very clairvoyant. I can see things in the future. I'm very clairaudient. I hear when my ears are ringing off like crazy, and I know there's a guide or some ancestors trying to come through and tuning in. But I feel like it was being able to recognize those moments where I could set boundaries, implement them in ways. We had it recently. I was in Southampton, and I was with my dad, and we were looking at this beautiful mural on the wall. And it's this moment, I'm like, wow. And you think like the timing, the cameras there filming, it's a moment, me and my dad, someone just rocks up like, yo, come for the selfie. And I'm like, whoa, like, it was so unconscious. But it was only then at that point you can kind of be like, the people pleaser in me, which I noticed at the time, was like, okay, let's do the selfie. Yeah. But the other part of me is like, no, really, I should have set a boundary, like, give us
give us a few minutes
to do the thing. And that's the thing, is knowing where and when to implement it. Because I think my people pleasing came from the thought that someone might take this away from me if I don't do that picture, if I always say yes.
So it's a self-worth thing. It is for me. I'm talking for myself here, certainly. I can see the moments where I've wanted to give too much, there has been that fear of this will all go because I don't believe I'm worthy of what I'm doing.
Yeah, then it leads into imposter syndrome, which is the thing that from 0 to 100 with my career, even though behind the scenes it was my whole childhood leading up to that point with the first album Born to Do It. But when it exponentially went from, like I said, 0 to 100, rewind with Artful Dodger, Film Me in #1, 7 Days #1, album Born to Do It #1, traveling the world, I was looking around thinking, especially at the arena tour, we had a 3 nights sold out at Wembley Arena, and I was on stage, and I can remember it quite viscerally, that I was thinking, they must be here for someone else.
Wow.
Because it was only a few months back, I was making mixtapes in my bedroom, selling them at the local barbers. It was just so fast, especially at that age as well. So it took a lot of time to try and to rein it back in and realize, you know what? No, it was through my hard work and God gracing me with the talent to create these songs and owning it. And I think that also kind of led into me using myself in the third person a lot of times with people. I tried to fragment myself of being, no, I'm Craig from Holyrood Estate. I'm the local boy, you know me from when I was selling mixtapes, to the other one that's over there is doing 3 nights sold out at Wembley Arena, who's meeting with Destiny's Child, and they're just fans of your music. And you're like, so I had to, there was a lot of psychological things I had to process, which are all about getting to adulthood. And I mean, I got it in the musical format, kind of expedited that. I think it made it a lot it was so quick, but I've had to rein and heal a lot of those things to at least land it in a book or to sit here and talk.
Well, it's so quick at the time. You almost can't process what's going on and think to yourself, is this okay? Am I reacting to this appropriately or whatever it might be? And so I think it's interesting when you get into your 40s, certainly with about the same age, that you can almost look back and be quite reflective and go, oh, actually, I can make some changes and I can, explore that time and how I reacted to things around me. And boundaries, they'll always intrigue me because I don't feel like I ever quite nail them.
No,
I feel like some days I go, oh yeah, I was very clear about my boundary there, and other days I'm boundaryless and everything's chaotic and all over the shop. And it's a really difficult one if you didn't have them in place at the start of your career to then start changing things down the line, but it's not impossible.
You're so right. It's kind of work in progress, as you said, all the time. And I'm far from nailed it. And I always say this, I don't know anything. I've accumulated some wisdom and some experience, but I don't know 100% like this is the right or wrong. I'm a journeyman. I'm in the mix with everyone and I'm learning along the way. But I have seen that certain repetitive patterns that have triggered me and gave me that feeling, especially when you're having sort of, you're laying in bed and you're not sleeping well, and it is affecting your sleep patterns, because someone did overstep the boundary and you didn't say the thing. It's always good in hindsight to look back, and I think that's where meditation does help, because it allows you a moment to reflect on things, and we work on it. And the next day we think, you know what? Well, not even think. We feel the situation. Not even think. That's why I say tune in, feel. I'm going to say no, and that no may make
hard.
it feels, because it's foreign to me.
Yeah,
I'm
alien.
yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm yes is my go-to, yes man. But as soon as I say no, you get a bit of pushback. But know that that's not for you to don't caretake that situation if someone has to hold a no.
Yeah.
Because the no's coming from a loving place.